Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Council. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here tonight to share with you a quick update on the status of what we've been doing with the Agriculture and Tourism Committee of York County. As you know, this committee was put together a couple years out of this very chamber to investigate and research agriculture and tourism within York County. Using an approved consultant study, we have done so. We've taken the knowledge of what we've gained from the study, and we've visited 5 different facilities around our area in North and South Carolina to see what those facilities do well, what they struggle with, and how we could possibly learn if an agriculture and tourism facility is warranted for York County. We visited Grassy Pond Arena in Gaffney, South Carolina, T. Ed Garrison Arena in Clemson, South Carolina, Tryon International Equestrian Center in Tryon, North Carolina, and Western North Carolina Ag Center in Fletcher, North Carolina. These visits were extremely helpful to us because the staff of these facilities made themselves fully available to us. They opened a lot of their business plans to us. They shared with us what was successful and ultimately what was not successful. We then took the information that we learned and went to Columbia to meet with some state stakeholders to show them what we were planning to do and see if there was any interest at a future partnership with the state. Some of these partners were the South Carolina Chamber of Commerce, South Carolina Ag Department, Farm Bureau, PRT, and the Clemson Extension. After that meeting, we have come back as a group and put together some more questions that we have, but also put down what we've learned. Today, we have spent the day as a committee along with Chris Hines, who is the director of T. Ed Garrison Arena in Clemson, South Carolina. He was gracious enough to sit in a room with us all day today, and we really got into the specifics. And what we've learned from that, we're putting together to formulate a plan for you. Mr. Watts Huckabee is going to share with you where we go from here and our plans going forward.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Council, for allowing us an opportunity to be here this evening. Before I share a couple of comments, I just want to say that obviously it's warm in the room tonight, and all I can guess is either, Kevin, you decided to save some money on the power bill, or either you guys wanted to cut this meeting short, because I think we're all going to get to the point tonight. Let me pick up on what Adam just shared. So to this point, what we've done with the current agritourism working group, we've been collecting information. We've been asking a lot of questions as we've been out visiting the multiple sites, taking our trip to Columbia, meeting with stakeholders in Columbia. We had a telephone interview with Jan Ivey, who is the marketing director for Tryon, North Carolina. So we've invested a lot of time and energy in going into these conversations with set questions so that we could get the feedback that we needed. And as Adam said, today we had a 6-hour meeting in Gaffney, convenient spot so that the gentleman that was driving from Pendleton had a shorter drive than to drive to Rock Hill and give us more time to talk. We were able to take all the information that we'd recorded from these visits and begin to put it down on paper and actually begin to put a strategy together. So from tonight forward, we feel like that we've gathered a lot of good information that will help us put a concept together for County Council to ultimately consider for an agritourism project. Now, a couple things about the agritourism project that I think is important to know. That initially when we started this endeavor, we were talking about agritourism. And what we've learned is an agritourism facility is not going to be self-supporting financially. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't happen in any other locations. But the agritourism component is critically important. It's critically important to this county. It's critically important, in our opinion, to Western York County. But it's the non-agri component, the work that you do in bringing the non-agri businesses and opportunities to this facility that help pay for the agri component. So our next step is to do this. We're going to begin to work on a concept, a physical concept that you can visually see. So that's our next step. And then we're going to meet with what we call strategic partners, stakeholders in this, which will involve the Farm Bureau. We're going to go see the board of directors for the Farm Bureau to make sure they know and understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish. The farming community, There are about 70 identified farms in York County, but there are actually around 150 to 170 total farms in the county, hobby farms, people that are farming. They're just not as big as the ones that you all could name that we know of. The third group, we want to target the youth. And we're going to do this by meeting with the educational stakeholders in the county. We feel like for this to be successful, we need to get the youth involved and youth to understand how significant agritourism and agribusiness is and can be in this county. So we need to get the youth on board while they're in the learning stages. So we're going to do that by meeting with the FFA, the 4-H clubs, the Scouts, Clemson Extension, and the ATC, which is a part of the school district. Our plan after we meet with these three entities is to go back to Columbia, because we owe the group that we met with. We had 16 people in this meeting in Columbia, Department of Commerce, Department of Agriculture, PRT, Clemson Extension, the Farm Bureau. So we had the leadership of those organizations that took 2 hours out of their day to listen to our vision for what could happen here in York County. And I'll be honest with you, leaving that meeting that day helped us see that this really does have potential. They saw the value in it, and they offered some wonderful feedback that's helped us shape what this concept could actually become as reality. So we'll go meet with them. What we'd like to do next is we would like to meet with our state delegation. We'd like to share with the state delegation all the work that we've done thus far, kind of get their pulse on what this looks like and get their opinion on whether there's any state support for the initiatives that we think are important and could be of value to York County in promoting tourism. And then we'd like to have individual meetings with each council member. So one of us will come meet with you and share with you all the work that we've done thus far, so that when you come into chamber or you go into committee, you've been given the information that you need to make a strong, educated decision on whether this is a worthy project or not. And before we come to full council, what I can tell you is this. As a member of the co-chair of this group, which I've enjoyed working on, learned a lot about agriculture. It is our intent to come to you with a project that can stand on its own 2 feet. And so if we do come back and make a presentation, the need for this will speak for itself. Otherwise, I won't be coming back to present. Somebody else from the group may come, but it's going to have to be self-supporting and self-sustaining. And I think we have a huge opportunity to do that. So there's more work to be done by our group. I gauge another 6, possibly 8 months of work ahead of us before we're able to come back and share with you all the work that's been done. Last thing I'll say is, I wasn't on the original group that worked on this. Some 30 years ago, there was a group that was pulled together by county council to look at agritourism. There was a second group that was established, and then there was a third group established after 2008, after the recession of 2008. So the third group is the group that I'm a member of, and this group are a group of people that are looking at this with fresh eyes. We're not looking at this politically. No self-motivation in doing this. We're only moving forward if we do, because we feel like this is for the betterment of York County, and it can generate significant tourism in a very unique way as this county, our state, and our country evolves and changes. As trends change, we're taking all this into consideration to what we're putting together in this package. So we'll open it up for questions.
Before we do any questions, Chairman, would y'all turn the lights on out there? It's a little disconcerting. He's sitting sitting there in the dark talking to us.
We hear a voice, but
There we
you
are.
know.
Down a little bit.
Anybody have any questions?
Well,
Dr. Black?
I started this group 2-3 years ago. I forgot when, but I want to commend how thorough y'all are being, covering all the bases and covering all levels of the political spectrum, and how you made the presentation. And obviously, if y'all recommend it, it's going to be a good thing to do when it gets to that point. Thank you for everything you're doing. Adam and Watson and everybody else.
Appreciate you saying that. And thank you, Britt, for allowing us to take all the politicians off of this working group, so there's just a group of citizens that are looking out for the best interest of the county. Thank you.
Anyone else? I appreciate and look forward to hearing a self-supporting, well, I forget it was self-support. I like to say, I almost stopped at self-supporting. I like that idea, and self-sustaining. that is going to go a long way. I have had objections from the get-go that I did not believe that this was just going to suck money out of a pot from hospitality tax that didn't necessarily exist. So I'm extremely pleased to hear that you all are exploring that. And if you get to that point, I am more than willing to support it, and I will say that. So thank you all.
Thank you for your time.
Public forum is next. I want to remind everyone you have 2 minutes to speak. I am going to stop you at 2 minutes. We are running long already, saying we have a long list of people who want to speak. Very first up is, and please give your name and address. First up is Steve McCray.
I'm Steve McCray. My address is 2 Kings Mountain Street, York, SC, 29745. Members of council, regarding the Vista at Lake Wylie rezoning ordinance, you have a choice tonight on whether the water quality of Lake Wylie will be preserved. You can approve the rezoning, which will result in the developers contributing over $1 million to Blue Granite Water Company, as well as putting in a $400,000 pump station for upgrading the currently underperforming Mill Creek Crossing sewage treatment facility, thereby enhancing the lake's water quality. Or you can deny the resulting, which will likely cause the owner to apply to amend the subdivision plan for the option of installing 89 septic tanks, which is allowed under the existing ordinances of York County because of fear that a developer would not be able to afford to pay $1 million for sewage treatment for just 89 lots. You have a choice. You can approve the rezoning for 149 residences, resulting in at least $32 million more in the tax base over what it would be if only 89 lots were developed, which is probably one of the reasons the Clover School District has communicated in writing to planning staff that it has no objection to this rezoning plan. Or you can deny the rezoning and take $32 million out of the tax base that would have helped pay for county services that are needed today. You also have the opportunity to approve the rezoning, thereby increasing the value of adjoining properties, having the developer contribute $66,000 to the costs of traffic improvements, and having the developer to make upgrades to Highway 274 near Pole Branch Road. Or deny the rezoning and have the county and the residents in the area to lose all that. The developer has done everything and more asked of it by Councilwoman Love at their first meeting in 2017 when the plan was for 178 lots. And based upon her favorable reaction to the plan, they spent over $120,000 in engineering and other pre-development costs, not counting legal fees and other land acquisition costs. It has done everything planning staff has requested and everything that the county attorney has requested, and they've made concessions so that now there is no access to Harper Davis Road. I repeat, no access to Harper Davis Road.
Steve, I apologize. I have to cut you off. The next name, is it Jesse Casper? You can speak during the public hearing, because your item, and Scott Parker, your item as well is on the public hearing. Kevin Gallagher. Again, name and address, Mr. Gallagher.
Yes, sir. Kevin Gallagher, Caldwell Tanks, 4000 Tower Road, Louisville, Kentucky. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. In addition to being Vice President of Caldwell Tanks, I'm also a registered professional engineer in the state of South Carolina. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. We submitted the low bid for the Highway 21 Composite Elevated Tank, or CET. Our bid was $96,000 lower than the next lowest bid. We're excited about building another tank for you. We built the tank on Stockbridge Drive, Antigua Cay. The survey information I sent each of you shows that you were very satisfied with that project, all aspects of that project. We've built thousands of tanks across the country since 1887, so we'd love to come build this one for you as well. However, we were informed by York County Purchasing that you received a letter recommending award to the second bidder. We asked the consultant for a copy so that we may respond to you and you may make a fully informed decision. Mr. Shoesmith declined, saying he was unable to discuss the project specifics. He did indicate, however, that the issue centers on the specified concrete pour height in the tower's concrete pedestal. This project specification contains language drafted by competitors designed to restrict competition. There is no justification for such a restriction with respect to the performance of the tank. Mr. Shoesmith mentioned having to remove concrete on a past tank, but said that that was not a Caldwell tank. You might hear things like pour lines or ability to inspect. We're happy to discuss quality in further detail and our continual improvement. But our safety and our quality records are unparalleled. I believe we're the only company in the U.S. to hold the stringent ISO 9001 quality certification for the design, fabrication, and construction of water and industrial tanks. The majority of specs across the U.S. do not include this requirement, including the tank that we built for you and for Kimley Horn elsewhere. The good news is you can award to Caldwell. Waiving this restrictive language is an informality. Settled law confirming this is in the information that I sent to you. So you have a choice: award to the second bidder, squashing further discussion, costing citizens unnecessarily, or award to Caldwell, who you've already worked with, saving $96,000, or discuss the matter further. I'm available this evening. As
Mr.
prudent
Gallagher, I'm
stewards, the
afraid I
choice
have
is
to
clear.
stop you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Harris Gaffin? Harris? You don't need, okay. Shirley Collins?
Not too hot for him.
Yep. Jimmy Davis? Lynn Davis?
Yes, my name's Jim Davis, 431 Harper Davis Road. And we're here again to address this here complicated situation on Highway 274 of Harper Davis Road, of course. And I think that, I think we all getting tired of coming up here. And we need to make this decision about this and get it over with. All I gotta say.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Would Mrs. Davis like to speak? Lynn Davis? No, excuse me.
My name is Lynn Davis. I live at 381 Harper Davis Road, which is on the very end. I'm just here speaking on the behalf of our road, trying to stop this situation we got, this rezoning. I have talked to a lot of people on our road that said they wasn't gonna vote for this rezoning, and where they coming up with 39 people, they're not on our road. They must be outsiders. I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, sir. Susan Mead, no, all right. Jerry Node, no, all right. Christine Baldizzi.
Good evening, County Council members. My name is Christine Baldizzi, and I live at 2037 Curry Lane in Lake Wiley, South Carolina, 29710. I want to thank you today for allowing me to speak to you about this subject. Specifically, I live in Mill Creek Falls, which is approximately 3/10 of a mile down from the current project that the developer is trying to change the home allotment from 89 homes to 149. I am here today as a representative for my community, not only as a homeowner, but as a Mill Creek Falls HOA president. There have been many discussions and concerns brought to the board regarding this new development going up right down the street from our neighborhood. Many neighbors have not only come to me, but to my fellow board members. We are a rather large development with 389 home sites. That being said, if we use the methodology of 2.5 drivers per home site, that would equate to 972 drivers out on the roads at all hours of the day. Allowing this developer to increase his development by 60 homes using the same methodology, it would increase the roadway with an additional 150 drivers per day on our roads. When he purchased this property, he was aware that the site was for use for 89 homes. My fellow homeowners were asking me when he was informed that he could change this home site to count to 149 homes. I don't have an answer for them. Our area in Lake Wiley does not have the infrastructure to accommodate 89 homes, much less 149. The pennies for progress with 2-lane roads won't even make a difference to where we are today, as it will be impacted by this development, and I'm sure more as they come. Where do we send these incoming children to preschool, elementary, middle, and high school? Crowders Creek, Oak Ridge Elementary, Middle, and Clover High School are either at super close capacity or at capacity now. We also do not have our own police or medical services within 5 miles of our area. Anyone needing medical services needs to drive through severe traffic if it is rush hour to Rivergate, Pineville, Rock Hill, or Gastonia. I'm asking the county council to slow down the growth until we have the necessary infrastructure in place to support all of this growth.
Ms. Baldesi, I'm afraid I have to stop you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Karen Spinney? Gary, thank you, sorry.
Thank you, Councilman, for letting me speak tonight. I am also from Mill Creek Falls. I wanted to speak to you about the development. I would like to deny it because we have all these speakers that came before us, and they talk about bringing all these visitors and people that want to come here. I have a friend that lives across the bridge. She tried to come to my house twice over that bridge in one day. There was an accident at 3:15. She tried at 6, she turned around and went home. She tried again at 9 o'clock, still could not get over the bridge. Now, I understand that they're expanding 274 right there by Mill Creek Falls, and that's why they're saying, oh, we can add these homes. But what about when you get to Walmart? That turning lane to go left to get into Charlotte, people are now cutting through Publix to cut through those developments to then come out at the landing and pop out and make a left because there's so much traffic that at that intersection, it just becomes gridlocked. So I just am asking you to take a drive from Rivergate at 5 p.m. on any given day in this development and see how long and how bad the commute is home. The other day when the accident happened, it took people 2 hours and 45 minutes to get home. If you want people to come to Lake Wiley, Fort Mill has all this retail, Rock Hill has all this retail, that's why people are going there. And then you have Lake Wiley and you're just loading us up with homes and apartments. We want retail. We don't want the same 3 restaurants to go to or have to drive 45 minutes or even go to Gastonia, go to Belmont. That's what I do now, because to actually leave and make a right, it's just, the traffic is just awful. So I'm speaking from a mother who has small children, that I understand development and growth, that's a good thing, but to just keep adding on and give you quantity over quality, it's just, I want you to hear what I have to say today, and I thank you.
Thank you. We would ask, excuse me, I'd ask that we don't clap for or against, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, but that's not our role here. Sam Leslie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, County Council. I'm here to speak on the Riverview Special Tax District and the county taking over the paid firemen. I'm speaking as a taxpayer and for many, many taxpayers in Riverview District that couldn't come tonight. We do not want to see the Tax District Board dismantled, because that's where we're paying our money in to operate Riverview Fire Department. I was a volunteer fire chief there for 45 years and had no trouble working with the Tax District Board. Now, if the Tax District Board that we have now does not have the time or capability to operate, then instead of demolishing the board, let them resign and let's put on some people from the community that has the time that will get out here and work. Also, we do not want to see the county take over the paid fire system. Riverview is not big enough to have a paid fire chief. We have had paid firemen for years, it's not that big a problem. We do not, as taxpayers, want to see Riverview Fire Department go underneath the county supervision. We have many people out there that feel the same way. Also, we are getting annexed daily. We are getting eaten up by TKK, Fort Mill, and Rock Hill. So down the road, we're not going to have the revenue that big businesses that we had before. So it's all the money is going to have to come from us poor taxpayers. So we want to have a board that will direct them. We have been asked, we've been shy, a member for the board, been trying to get a new member put on the board for 2 years, and they will not report a new member. So we're one short on the tax district board now. But we ask y'all to have real serious thoughts about this. I'll be glad, Noah doesn't have but 2 minutes, but I'll be glad to talk to you in private anytime. All you got to do is contact me, and I'll have you put in contact with other people.
Sam, I'm afraid I have to stop you. Thank you, sir. Before we move to consent, is there any matter that anyone would like removed out of consent?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm concerned about the gentleman that came up and spoke about the water tower issue. Can we pull that one out?
What number is it?
I think it's, is it 13?
All right. We will remove item 13, and it will become item number 5 under new business. Any other matters to be removed from consent? Do we have a motion?
Move
Move to approve consent.
to, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none, consent is approved. Public hearings. Rezoning action case number 19-07, tax map number 26300000004, 26300000008, and 263000016, rezoned from AGC to RUD, 72.967 acres, located and in the Kings Mountain community. Is anyone here against? Feel free to come up one at a time and give us your thoughts. And please give us your name and address.
Jessica Casper, J.S. Dirt Road, is where our farm is. I don't know, we have a lot of concerned neighbors as far as being against it. We're just concerned of exactly what's going to happen. You hear the people from Mills Creek being concerned about so many houses, and the school being, the school there is Bethany in the Clover School District, and it's already at full capacity. And this is a lot of farmland, and that's why we are building a house out there. We have 40-some acres where we want it to continue to be farmland and all around us. But if we need to know if there's going to be mobile homes there, or if there's certain size houses and how many houses, if they're going to say there's going to be so many houses, if they're going to eventually be, it's 72 acres, is there going to be 72 houses, or what exactly is going to happen with it?
Anyone else against? Yes, sir.
Chairman Johnson, was there a picture available of this rezoning where this is? Yes, okay.
David, is there?
Yes, Karen says yes.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time. Scott Parker. I also got property on J.S. Dirt Road. The concern was, like I say, it's a school, the schools capacity level is full. And right now, it's agricultural conservation, and that, my understanding, that should be left, alone. It shouldn't be bothered. And, there's wetlands down there and streams and stuff, and just didn't think the property should be disturbed for housing development.
Anyone else like to speak against? Anyone in favor? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Tina Karras. I live at 18045 Old Statesville Road, Cornelius, North Carolina. I did graduate from York High School back when we had more mascots than you could count. I'm here today requesting the rezoning of the nearly 75 acres. It has road frontage on 161, Tart Road and JS Dirt Road. You'll notice in the pictures provided that the front and rear of these properties are already RUD. Across the road on 161 is BD2, or Highway Commercial, and a bit lower in the zoning picture is RD2. A few thousand feet away in the other direction is RUD1, the lighter green. I'm new to property development, so thank you for your patience with me in this. But my partners have developed thousands of acres in this area. You can't go many places around here without seeing their handiwork. Mr. Metker and his sons have built over 125 miles of beautiful four-rail black fence and breathtaking stone columns all over York and surrounding counties. The dictionary's definition of develop is grow or cause to grow and become more beautiful, mature, advanced, or elaborate. He has created beautiful and enticing places for people to build their dream homes, which is exactly what we'd like to do on Tart and JS Dirt Road. Changing the zoning from AGC to RUD completely would allow us to create approximately, I think I drew out 25, but possibly 29 1 to 15 acre parcels in a highly desirable area of the county. When researching statistics, it wasn't difficult to find student-teacher ratios, standardized test scores, neat, well-kept facilities, and a voracious support for all things sports are quite the draw for this area and York County schools.
Anybody else in favor?
Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none. And all we are doing is holding a public hearing. There is no vote tonight. This is our new procedure where matters were heard in public hearing. They're then reviewed, sent to the planning commission, and then to the council for 3 votes. Rezoning action, hold a public hearing, case number 19-08, tax map 486-000026, rezone from RC1 to BD3, 2 acres at 2620 Mountain View Road in the Lake Wiley community. Is there anyone against? Come up one at a time.
My name is Sarah Work. I live at 6401 Charlotte Highway, about a quarter of a mile up the street. My concern this evening is, as another lady had mentioned earlier about the project off of 274, traffic. People are only supposed to go 45 through this intersection. We have had life flights out of this intersection because people do not go 45 miles an hour through this intersection. It's not a friendly place that I would imagine increasing the traffic by putting in a business. And in the materials that were provided for this hearing, it says that the area in general for 35 till 2035 is supposed to be residential. That's what the goal is for the area. So I'm really kind of confused as to why they would want to put a business here. So, thank you.
Anyone else against?
Hey, my name is Brian Hawley. I live at 2689 Mountain View Road. I'm talking about putting a bait and tackle shop on the individual's property, getting it rezoned at an intersection that has 2 to 4 major accidents every year. Helicopters landing across the street in the field, taking people off to the hospital. These are major accidents. It's an intersection that's on a blind hill and at the end of a passing zone already, connected to 2 cut-through roads that connect to 2 other major highways. So that increases traffic. Also, the road is dark at night. There's no traffic lights on 49 or Mountain View Road. So it would be a easy target for increased crime with 4 easy getaway routes. To thwart the crime, you'd have to light it up, parking lot and building. Those lights would shine somewhere, I'm guessing in our windows of the houses that are close by. And the last point is that I'm assuming somebody can't just come up here and say that they want to rezone their property to sell it for a profit. I'm guessing they have to have an agenda, like a bait and tackle shop, maybe. But the same individual owns that lot right across the road that's already zoned for BD3 that he bought 2 years ago for around $35,000. So it seems like he could build it there already, but instead there's a for sale sign on it for $425,000. So I'm thinking there's no intention of building anything on the property, is my guess. So.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else against?
Do they need to move that microphone a little toward them? Everybody's very difficult to hear.
Chris Hope, I live 6303 Crosswinds Drive, just off of Mountain View Road also. I think there's a pretty big consensus in the neighborhood that we're a little concerned about that property being rezoned also. The last gentleman nailed it, the traffic. You got West Liberty, Mountain View, 49, and matter of fact, I pulled out in front of a speeding car to get here tonight. Didn't see him when he came over the hill. Not a good place for a business. I think you'll find most people bought out there because they like the residential area. You know, a bait and tackle shop doesn't sound like a bad business to have around, but if it doesn't make it, or he decides to close or to sell, what would be the next thing we'd have in our backyard, you know? Big concern for the folks in that area. Thank you.
Chris, will you pull that microphone toward you just a little bit for the next person?
Yeah,
Thank you.
for the next guy.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else against?
My name is Don Baird, 3015 Mountain View Road. All that yellow that you see to the left of Mountain View Road is where I live. The rezoning of this property, I realize the other 3 corners are already changed, but this property backs into purely residential, and it's already developed. It's not vacant residential lots. It's already developed. The lot directly across Mountain View, the little triangle, it's where Toot Montgomery had his automobile repair shop until Kudzu took it over and it rotted down. And that was a pre-existing use when zoning came into effect in York County, and I believe that's why it is zoned as it is zoned. The other properties are on the other side of the road. The long, dark brown one is a machine shop that's been there since I was a kid, and I'm old. The lilac one, y'all just approved a couple years ago, and now we have a metal building with a 10-foot high black metal fence around it with barbed wire on the top. Sort of looks like a jail. I'm not sure what it's used for because it's never open. I just don't see the need of making this rezoning. I don't know what Mr. Maddox is planning to put on it, but at BD3, he can put anything he wants to on it, pretty much. It could be a dollar store, it could be a bait and tackle shop, it could be about anything. And I just don't believe that it belongs in a residential neighborhood. Just forget what's on the other corners. Those things are there for other reasons, or the zoning is there for other reasons. You don't need to back this lot up into a residential neighborhood, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else against?
Hi, I'm Nancy Kaiser, 6435 Crosswinds Drive. I also live right off of Mountain View in the neighborhood right behind where this property is. And I just wanted to say, too, I'm very concerned about the traffic. I mean, we've seen some horrific accidents on that corner. We have some young people in our neighborhood that'll be driving soon, and, I mean, it's just crazy. The properties that they have referenced across the street, they're not retail. It's a machine shop. You have one or two vehicles that show up in the morning. They stay there. It's not traffic coming in and out like a retail operation would. And so we're really concerned about that we would have this extra traffic on that corner when it's already a dangerous corner. And again, you know, we moved out there because it was a rural area. That was the draw. That was what enticed us out there. And to have businesses move in a block away, you know, that's just not what we moved out there for. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else against?
Hello, my name is Justin Eisenhower. I live at 6490 Charlotte Highway, York, South Carolina. My wife and I actually own the lot that is right directly beside this, this piece of property. We bought this lot 11 years ago. Her and I and our 4 small children live there, and we bought it specifically because it's a really quiet, peaceful, private residential area. The idea of having that torn down and a business put in right beside my house, is not very appealing. Everyone mentions the traffic, that's a given. I'm also concerned about the safety of my children who are going to be outside playing in the sprinklers during the summer with a business right there beside it. If we're out in the backyard grilling during the summer, trying to have a nice, peaceful Sunday afternoon, I don't want the traffic of a business coming in and out of there. The litter that will come from it, increased crime, increased traffic, those items all concern me. That's mostly it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else against? Anyone in favor?
I'm Mike Fry with Campco Engineering. We're located at 156 Oakland Avenue in Rock Hill. We're representing Mr. Maddox, who is the owner of the property. We're his engineering consultant. Basically, Mr. Maddox is requesting that this property be rezoned from its current zoning of RC1 to BD3, which would be consistent with 2 of the other quadrants of the intersection, as well as the light industrial that's diagonal to his property. His proposed intent is to use this as a sporting goods shop, fishing and hunting supplies for the area, being that it's close to the lake in this part of the county. It does not have that type of service. A Tier 1 TIA has been performed on this and approved by the planning staff. So I just want to note that as well. I don't know if Mr. Maddox, you have anything to add?
Our hours will be like 9 to 7 and closed on Sunday. You know, we're planning a really nice facility.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak in favor?
Motion to close.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Rezoning action, hold a public hearing, case number 19-09. This is a District 5 UD rezoning project. Anyone here against? Anyone here in favor?
Move to close.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. Old business. Council discussion and decision regarding rezoning process changes. I'd ask that Mr. Hudspeth please give us an overview of what the new proposed change is.
You have in your packet a description of the process that we are recommending to the council. This a departure from what we currently do. We changed to the current process sometime in the last year. Now that we've done it for a while, we've had a few concerns expressed by council that the process may need to be revisited. This is a return to something more like what we had before, but it would involve the initial applicant, make applications. Staff would then do the background work, prepare a summary for planning commission. Planning commission, and make a recommendation to planning commission. Planning commission would then take all those facts into account, make their own recommendation, and refer it on to council. We would encourage at that point the developer, if it is thought to be a possibly contentious issue, they may want to meet with adjoining neighbors, anybody that was sent a notice, so they could fully explain what they're proposing to do and gain some kind of consensus on it. If it's, in some cases, we have very small rezonings, may involve a house or two, that may not be necessary. But then you'd go to the county council meeting, and that first reading, we'd have a public hearing similar to what we've done tonight, and hear from, you would have a recommendation from staff, you'd have a recommendation from the planning commission, and then you would have public input. The first reading, council could then make a decision to approve or not to approve. If that is approved, that it would go on to second and third reading, but the public hearing portion would be conducted at first reading.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
I just have one comment. We would, I think it might be a good idea to add, in the process, when it comes to the first reading and public hearing at council, would like to add a presentation, like what the planning commission would get, council would also see that. You know, an example is tonight, we've had people in the audience who sitting here through all of this, and they don't know what we're talking about, where it is. So I think the presentation to say, you know, just to give us the background on it, and then the people in the audience and the people who are here to speak either for or against, people tonight, you know, stood up and they didn't know anything about it. They just know, hey, there's a rezoning sign out somewhere. They need to probably show up at a council meeting. So I think that would just help us with the transparency and awareness for people.
Don't disagree. Anybody else? This is not a matter in which we vote. If no one has an objection, this will just become the new policy of council regarding rezonings.
I'm not going to object for the will of the council, but I would still say, I think, erring in favor of the citizens for transparency, it would be better to do the public hearing at the second reading, just because I still feel like that first reading really comes across to the majority of public. But that's just me. I accept the will.
David, it looks like the majority is going to agree to move forward with this new plan as you spelled out.
Okay,
Although I would support that you all give a brief overview at those so that the public, before public hearing, gets a little more information about what's going on. Because often people are here purely because they've seen a sign and they don't know really why they're here.
So if we could just have some discretion as to when we start that. We've probably got some that are in the works, so I would look for that to happen over the next couple of months.
And we can certainly give that discretion. Council to consider third reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 155, Sections 155.009 and 155.428C, in order to amend the definition of major roads to comply with SCDOT standards, to increase the minimum lot width standards for new residential development on major roads from 100 feet to 300 feet, to invoke the pending ordinance doctrine, to provide for a public hearing, and to provide for other matters relating thereto.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve third reading with the following changes: that we require the minimum required road frontage on major collectors as listed by staff and not SCDOT road classification list to be 150 feet. This would include the following changes to the proposed ordinance: remove language in the proposed ordinance that refers to the DOT classification specifically the proposed revised section 155.0091B. Create an appendix in Chapter 154 of the subdivision ordinance that includes the list of road names by their classification as provided by staff. Modify the proposed ordinance, Section 155.428C, to reflect that the change that the arterials will continue to require 350 of road frontage, and major collectors will require 150 feet of road frontage.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Cox?
Good Lord, you want to see how sausage is made? Could have watched from August of last year to today. It's been a difficult process, and it's one that I hope that we all learn from. I have concerns about how the ordinance was handled. I have concerns about whether or not the ordinance itself fixes the problem, at least I thought council wanted to fix. But it is a problem that needed to be fixed nonetheless. When you have folks being able to do 350 feet on a major arterial and 100 on a minor road, and you could still do 100 on a major collector, that poses tremendous problems for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest concerns that I recently have heard is that staff felt like they were being pressured into proposing a solution, because this solution was something that staff proposed to council to fix a problem. Nobody originated this, and in fact, there were a lot of concerns at the outset that this may not fix the problem that was originally sought to fix. I want to make it very clear to staff and to anyone listening. I serve on this council. We have a limited amount of time. Government moves way too slow. We are behind the 8 ball. There are a lot of things that need to get done, especially with our zoning ordinances that seem to take forever. That is frustrating. But I have never asked, and I do not want us to pass or to suggest something in a hurry. I am not in a hurry to pass a bad ordinance. I want us to do a good one. So to the extent that there are ever any questions about that with future ordinances, I want that to be very clear. I think that, the problems that we've seen in this one, to go from 350 to 225, to start with DOT road designations and then change, I think that probably was a good thing. The problem was we didn't let the public know until 3 or 4 days, or even us know until that happened. So I think there's a lot of lessons for all of us to learn here. To the extent that I pushed for urgency, it's because I care. I care about our community. I care about us getting things done. But I would never want to do anything that would put us in a place that poses too much of a burden on property owners and that doesn't solve the problem that we're looking to solve. With that said, the motion that I made was crafted by staff, and it's basically based upon what I understood the majority of this council would agree to do and what was recommended by the development community and folks. I've reached out and asked a ton of folks that I trust who do development work, and they say this will accomplish something. This is a good step that doesn't infringe upon property rights, because the majority of the property that is along these roads was zoned RUD or AGC that would not have allowed any more of units per acre than what we're recommending here. It's extremely conservative. But it does, to me, I think that it will have an impact based upon the communications that I've had. It will improve safety. It will avoid sprawl. It will give us an opportunity to be proactive and to avoid situations that we have on 160. It will help us to avoid taxpayers subsidizing certain housing projects. I would say this, the developers also suggested, and I agree, that we need to do a 75-foot setback. The idea that on a major collector, you only have to have 25 feet of setback is crazy. So I would ask that council consider that as well, as us moving forward with that.
Dr. Blackwell?
I just want to commend Ms. Cox. I think this is a fair, reasonable compromise that was well thought out. I know you put a lot of time into it, per your concern, so I think it's, it's a 40% reduction in allowable space, so I think any more than that would have not been appropriate, and I appreciate all the thought and energy put into it.
Mr. Roddy?
My comment is, it's always good to start here. We can always increase versus saying we overdid it and now we want to pull back. Because once the train's left the station, it's hard to kind of, pull it back in. So going to 150, I think is a good point. And I have, 3 more years up here, and if it's not working to do what we set out for it to achieve, we can always increase that. So I like this starting point. And like I said, if it doesn't do enough, I'm sure we can bring this issue back down the road and say, hey, it's not working like we thought it would. We need to go up some more. So I like the fact that we landed on 150, and we'll see how that works out going forward.
So there's something to be said for taking an inch rather than a mile in some cases, although I would have liked to have had maybe a half mile and come in somewhere around 160, 165. But I'm going to support it because I feel like it is very needed, and I'm going to count on you to look at this again in a few years if I'm not up here with you still.
You'll be.
Mr. Winkler?
I did go to school in the North Georgia mountains, but I can count how many people have said they support this. Most of the people in my district would prefer to be left at what it was and not have any changes to their property rights and their what they can do with their property or can't do with their property. That's why they moved out there. But with that said, I would like to offer an amendment to the motion to remove the following 6 roads that are just in District 3 and do not cross over any other lines into any other district from the major collector list that will be included in this. And that's Church Road, Falls Road, Legion Road, Rawlsville Road, Sutton Springs Road, and Wood Road. Those 6 roads are only in District 3 and do not cross into any of your other districts or anything.
What were the last 3?
Rawlsville, Sutton Springs, and Wood.
There's a motion to amend. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion to amend. Mr. Winkler?
Again, these are roads that do not cross into any other district, and if you look at the map we were given, these are very small roads. I think it's stretching it, in my opinion, to call these a collector road. And so, again, we can always add them on in the future if something changes, but once something's on the list, kind of like we said with this wider ordinance, it's kind of hard to take them back off. So at this time, that's why I'm making the motion. They don't affect anybody else's district, because I know y'all support it in your district, but where they're just in my district, I'd like those 6 removed.
Any other discussion? Dr. Blackwell?
And Robert mentioned this to me last week at that board workshop, and when it was first told to me, I thought, oh, no problem there. But then driving home, I realized that you had taken some other roads out the meeting before that, if I remember correctly. Do I remember correctly? I thought you took out a couple, 3. Okay.
The road, I don't think we had a vote on that. I didn't, because we postponed this, so there was no, the meeting before that, there was no vote.
So
I had the list ready.
You mentioned it, but
I had the list
nothing was-
ready, but I didn't do it
No,
because
it wasn't done at that time. I got you.
to defer it, so.
So the only concern I have is if we start picking and choosing roads, it's kind of like each person sitting up here can say, oh, but wait a minute, I don't want this road in my district either. So I need to get some feedback from David. There you go. So do you agree with Mr. Winkler that these really aren't major collector roads with all being considered, or does the staff feel like it's important to include these?
Well, it's a fairly lengthy list of roads, and I'll admit I don't have them all committed to memory. We did do a good bit of study into which ones we wanted to remove from there, and we removed several, and that may be what you were mentioning.
Yeah, and that's kind of what was in the back of my mind after I left that discussion with Robert. I thought the staff had kind of gone in there and taken some out they didn't, or you and I talking, somewhere I heard that in my head, that there was going to be some roads that were taken out, so I didn't know why these were still left.
We started with the DOT generated list of roads, and it was apparent that they did include a lot of very low-traffic roads on their list of collectors. So at a staff level, we tried to review all of those. I rode the county and looked at a lot of them. I won't say I looked at every one of them, and we did pull several out. With that being said, I don't know that I know each ones that Mr. Winkler has suggested we remove, so it's hard for me to give an opinion on that. I do have a map I could look at if I had a few minutes or something, but being that we did not take those out of there, it may have been that they were some integral part of what we deem to be a collector road. So my thought is if they remained on the list, then we had some reasoning for leaving them on the list.
Dr. Blackwell? I'm making sure you still have the floor.
Oh, I'm good.
Anyone else?
I do.
Ms. Cox?
I guess I would echo Dr. Blackwell's concern simply because if we have a list of roads, then I think it's incumbent upon staff to make sure that what they've presented to us is correct and that we're not picking and choosing, that this is based upon a recommendation that's been made. And I do think, in order for it to be something that the public understands that that we need to stand by what staff's recommendation was on the list of roads, so I'll not be supporting the amendment.
Mr. Roddy?
I'll just jump in right here. Me personally, if Robert sees a need of what works in his district, I'm not going to buck him on what fits in his district because we all sit up here at times where Lake Wiley needs something that doesn't necessarily work in District 4. Lake Wiley needs something that doesn't necessarily work in District 5. So I don't see the real concern that I would have if Robert wants to pull out additional roads because he's in an area where he's not bothered up with a lot of growth. And if he thinks that this is going to hurt any capacity to get residential home or any kind of development or any kind of growth, I think we should support him because we all know what it's like. And we've heard and seen what the western side has struggled with in the past. So I'll support him if he thinks this will make it work in his district. I don't have a reservation about it, so.
My only concern is that I think we need to be working with the same rules and have some uniformity with how we're making these decisions and definitions. And if we start picking and choosing different roads and pulling some out here and there, we're opening doors to lots of discussions and creating lots of moving targets. And I think having some degree of stabilization with this ordinance is important. So I do have some concern there. That being said, I would encourage staff to look at those roads maybe again and make sure of their recommendation. But it's concerning to me that to start picking and choosing roads that are going to fall outside of our rules.
Any other discussion?
I will say that I agree. I think we need to be consistent. I think that's important. I'm actually glad to hear Councilman Roddy say that he's going to support different things for different districts. I'll remind him of that in a few minutes. But I also think that, it does protect those people on those roads. Robert, I've got some similar roads to you, and it protects them because when they've moved out there to an area that they consider the country, it keeps them from having to look at 11 driveways across the street from them. So it's good and bad, but I think they also have the backup of being able to get a variance. If they have that hardship, they can also get a variance, so.
They can apply for one.
They can,
Not
they can
guaranteed
apply.
They can get one.
Well, but, you know, the zoning board of appeals is very, capable of making a good decision in a case like that, I feel like. So, I would, if I were you, I wouldn't lose sleep over that list of roads. Because for my district, there are areas, there are a couple of roads like that also, but I don't wanna pull any out, that I want them to be consistent in my district, and I want it to be consistent countywide.
Any other?
I just want to add that if we were sticking with the original ordinance to move these to 350 feet, which is, you know, a very large change in terms of numbers and percentages, I would have a tendency to agree. But I think 150 feet, as Dr. Blackwell said, is really only a 40% increase. It's not so onerous as to detrimentally affect the property rights of the folks on that road. And I do think if we're weighing their concerns versus the idea of having consistency and uniformity, I just think the net benefits of having the uniformity outweigh those concerns in this particular case.
Dr. Blackman?
Sorry, Robert. I was just trying to get a clean answer there, but I would ask, I'm going to stick to my concerns about the consistency for everybody, but I would ask staff to reevaluate those roads, and if they come back and say, that kind of made sense, maybe we can come back and delete that. I just want to be fair, and, you know, I don't mean to cause anybody grief. I agree with the property rights. I'd soon just left it 100 feet too, but there is a need for this, so I bow to that. So I'll bow to consistency too, but I would ask staff to double check those roads of concern that he has.
And I will finish this up before we vote. As we go through area plans, I think this is something that might be tweaked and those roads pulled out once we develop area plans. Because I've said it 1,000 times, what's good for District 1 is not necessarily good for your district. In District 3, I think in fact, in District 1, there are only two roads in my entire district that are affected by this ordinance one way or the other, and both of them sit inside TKK. So there's no road in my district that's affected by this at all. So I just think this is something we should revisit, and your motion has merit. I just think tonight we have to, I would agree with what sounds like the majority. All those in favor of the motion to amend, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Wait, no, not I.
Aye.
What? Come out. Say it
All
one more
those,
time. I'm
all
sorry.
those in favor, say aye.
Of the amended motion.
Motion to amend.
That's Robert.
Okay.
All those opposed, say aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion to amend fails. We are back to the original motion. Is there any other discussion as to the original motion?
Were we going to add a setback?
No.
That would be out of order.
Okay, all right. That's the second time that would be out of order,
It
isn't it?
would be the second time. It's still out of order this time. I'm going to end it with this. I've learned a lesson through this process. We voted on this 6-7 months ago as a pending ordinance doctrine. That was a mistake. In retrospect, I would have never voted for that this way. What we did is we held up development, and we instead of, our job is to create rules that everybody can play with. And everybody fully understands the rules, and it's a fair table for everyone to come to. I think when you do if you're going to do a pending ordinance doctrine, you should actually pass something quick enough that you're doing it to make sure that an onslaught doesn't happen before it can pass. This wasn't an onslaught before it was passed. This was 7-8 months before it could pass. This was not good on our end, and I would hope that the council, we really need to be serious when we view that in the future. So, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
None? One. Motion passes. New business, council to consider first reading by title only of an ordinance dissolving the Board of Rural Fire Control for Riverview Rural Fire District and declaring that Riverview Rural Fire District shall be operated as part of an administrative division of York County.
Move to approve.
Second for discussion.
There's a second. Mr. Winkler.
I've had questions and concerns about this from the time it was brought up, but we had a meeting recently and, fire board was there, the council member that represents this area was there. I asked my questions about why they were recommending it, why they thought it would be better for the county to do it, and I got all my concerns addressed and answered. You know, it made sense to me, it's still, people talk about we need certain types of oversight. Well, we have, along with this, we've taken away the rural fire board ordinance already because it was something our 10-year plan recommended. I think just to say that we need an extra layer there of more people to oversee it is kind of, you know, if you start using that argument, then we need a special board to oversee everything we do at the county level or at council level if you need that extra layer of citizens in between, or extra layer of volunteers between the citizens and the council. This is what was recommended by the board. It's not anything that, as far as I know, that staff or council members have gone out to the board trying to get them to do that. We've stated all along, if you want to be a fire board in your tax district, that's fine. If you don't want to be, that's fine. That's up to you. So I will be supporting the first reading tonight.
I normally speak last, but since this is part of my district, I'd like to speak now. I was called by that fire board and asked, they said, we want to dissolve. I'd never had any inkling that they might dissolve until then. They believed that it is in the best interest of their area. They are growing, they are adding paid firefighters. Whether you agree with paid firefighters or not, they are adding them. They have to. It is a fast-growing area. They are not in the HR business. They are not in the insurance business. They are not in the benefits business. The county is, and the county can provide that help to them. This is, I certainly understand Chief Leslie's concerns, you know, in saying, well, let's just ask them to resign. If this doesn't pass, they're not going to resign. They're going to continue to do their jobs. I just say that we have a fire district that has said we would like to fold into the county. We would like that option. If the county says no to that, I'll be a little shocked in that we allowed Bethel to be folded into the county. And we allowed Bethel to come back out at a certain point. If we are, it is the same thing. This group wants to be a part of the county. They may never come out, but we've set a precedent of pulling a group in and then letting them back out. I can't tell you whether this will be good or bad long-term for Riverview. Time will tell. What I can tell you is that this was a department that has had issues, and here they come and they say, hey, we want your help. I think it's in our best interest to do that. And also, those of you who are wondering about the cost of that area, in the Riverview Fire Tax District, the value of a mill is up 9%. This is not an area that is hurting for cash right now. This is, they're up 9% on their mill. There is money there. There is the room. I would ask that you all support this motion. Dr. Blackwell.
And I thought this was pretty much a straightforward thing initially. It's gotten a little bit in the gray zone some, but I'm comfortable supporting it. I would just remind staff that we made it clear to all the volunteer firemen we wanted to do this as a transitional way, not say that and then just start pouncing on everybody. And I'm not saying we're doing that, but I'm a little bit nervous about some things that I've observed lately, but I'm comfortable. That's what they want. I'm comfortable with it.
I'll just say, I had a little different outtake on it. I heard from several different crews, several different stations, but I kind of came to ease with it once I found out that this was initiated by the fire department, by the fire chief. This is not something being done at staff level, because part of the big shockwave is it's out there that eventually we'll get to a county-paid fire service. And some of the concerns, genuine concern was, is staff are doing this to start transitioning early to go into a paid firefighter situation? I found out that wasn't the case because it was initiated by Riverview. So that being said, you know, we have no reason not to support them taking this step. But I don't see this as the first step for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years of everyone transitioning. I think this plan of everyone transitioning to county paid staff is probably a lot further out than what the feeling is right now. So I don't want everybody to get alarmed that this is the first step. Look for the second step next week, next month, in a year and a half or two. This is a bigger, a longer step, longer stride than I think what the feeling, the gut feeling is. So I'll support it.
So I feel a little bit differently about this than the rest of you. And I'm not saying that I can't be made comfortable with this, but I had a meeting today with county manager and Mr. Merriman to express some of my concerns, to basically have more of an open dialogue with them on the timeline for the county fire service moving to a paid fire service. So that conversation included a part about this fire board. And I'll tell you the parts of it that are concerning to me so you'll know what you need to overcome. And that would be that I don't think it's as much about the fire department and the 4-person tax board that's there as I think it's about the taxpayers. So last few days, I think Saturday, I started a poll in my area to see if the people in my district, taxpayers in the Bethel Fire Tax District, would rather have county oversight or if they would rather have a 5-person tax board as their oversight. And so far, there are over 140 responses, and it's a 90 to 10% in favor of a tax board. So it concerns me that if the people of Fort Mill, of the Riverview Tax District, are not aware that this is happening, then they may be caught by surprise. And that concerns me for those taxpayers. You know, it's very hard to get the word out to the people. And if they support that, you know, what they're thinking is that they have oversight by a tax board for those tax dollars. And I think that's a very important part of our fire tax districts. So they're all set up that way. My concerns that I expressed today were that this is a step toward becoming a paid fire service. It's a big step toward becoming paid fire service. And because I'm, you know, in the district with one of the next larger fire departments, it's concerning to me because I think there are other options and I think there are things that we need to do. Not every fire department can recruit and retain volunteers, but I know that mine can, and if mine can, I know that Riverview and the Fort Mill departments can, because we have a huge influx of people who have moved here from other areas and they have fire service from other areas. So what we would like to do at Bethel is have the opportunity to recruit and build our volunteer team up. That's what we're going to do, as a matter of fact. That is what we've already started that. We started that last week. And so my concerns are, you know, I do, like you, Bump, support each person in each district, and I especially support our chairman. And I think I hope everybody knows that. I would like to be comfortable with this decision because what I don't want it to do is to affect the other fire departments who do not want to not have a board. And that is my biggest concern. I'm trying to look out for my fire department in Bethel, and I'm trying to look out for some of the other fire departments that may feel like sometimes the rug's being pulled out from them, and that's not a good feeling. And so that is my concern. So I'm not going to support it tonight. I'd like to have some conversations. You know, you've had conversations, Robert. Sounds like you were privy to a conversation, and maybe that's the type of thing that I need to know more of before a second reading.
No, it was
on
at
this.
one of our workshops. It wasn't anything I was privy to. It was a workshop.
Oh, well, okay.
I think it's somewhat difficult to consider this decision outside of the context of the larger discussion we're having regarding moving to paid fire departments. However, I do believe this one is definitely distinguished from those concerns which I share only because of their approach to the county rather than the county approaching them. So for that reason, I'm going to support it.
I guess I'll go ahead and make some comments. I do think that, as I understand this ordinance, basically the special tax district money will still be collected in that district. It simply will be a mechanism that was voluntary, from what I have been told, that the special tax district asked for this to happen. Fortunately, we have 3 readings, so there still is opportunity to learn information about it. But I think at this point on first reading, I don't know how you argue with doing something that they've requested be done. And it doesn't affect the taxpayer in that it doesn't cause any more taxes to do this. And I think that we need to start having more meaningful discussions about what does this really mean. And I think that's the biggest question. I mean, there's this paranoia right now because of, I don't know, I wasn't at the JPS meeting. As I understand it, the workshop we're talking about was the boards and commissions, which is not really, I think, a workshop that any of us knew that we were discussing this. So I support us moving forward on this because of the reasons why I've just said. My bigger question, I understand that we're supposed to have a meeting Wednesday where we start talking about really what does this mean and what does this mean for the rest of the fire departments, because I think that's their concern. They're like, what is this? Do you really have a plan you're not sharing with us? Is there a problem here? Is this going to, what's our timeline? And so I think that we need to start really just being open and honest and transparent about where, I think now's the time for us to start having that discussion. So I support it on this one based upon the information I know now.
And I'll wrap it up by simply saying, the fact that you don't have a fire board doesn't mean you don't support volunteers. Everyone in this room should support volunteers. Everybody in this room should support volunteers. The fact that you would voluntarily show up, get all the training, and then run into a burning building, you have my support, day one and every day. I can promise you that. I do not want to see the end of the volunteer fire department in York County. Every fire department in York County who has the opportunity, if you can get 200 volunteers, you should have 200 volunteers willing to do it. Those who can't should have, and also have the opportunity to have paid ones. If coming into the county means that we're not going to have volunteers anymore, we should stop this ordinance right now. And I will say that. I would go against my fire tax board. If that's what it means if the county is going to stop all volunteers, we should stop the ordinance. But that's not what I hear. That's what I hear is we support them. We want them to build. I support this ordinance at this time. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Council to approve creation of fire services job descriptions and corresponding salary ranges.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have one question.
Ms. Cox?
Are these numbers that were, and I'm sorry, I don't sit on JPS, and I probably should have asked this question earlier, but I just want to make sure, is this number something that's reflective of the entire county, or is this specific to what would be necessary to hire qualified folks in the Riverview Tax District?
This would be, Ms. Cox, this is from MGT, this is our class and comp company that does this work. This is market competitive pay ranges for our market. So it's based on being a York County employee and carrying one of these ranks.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Rezoning action, consider first reading, case number 17-15, tax map 564-000003, to rezone from RUD to RC1, 178 acres at 457 Highway 274, Clover.
Motion to deny.
Is there a second? Is there another motion?
Move to approve.
Second for sake of discussion.
Second. Mr. Roddy?
This is a tough decision. I know I've gotten calls from my good friend Allison, and we're really close. I've got some calls from some people over in the area as well. But what brought me to the decision to actually support this was that the comp plan calls for even more density of the plan, of the area. I know there are some additional homes being added, and when I spoke to those who are petitioning for this, and to learn that it started out at 178 homes and was cut back down, well, 178 homes was twice the amount. Now they're down to 148. And the plan is calling for some better quality of homes being built, some more amenities in the area. It's a give and take scenario, and I know we all hear about traffic. We all hear about everything else that goes with development. And I look at it as a trade-off. You know, do you want a good quality bill, good price point? And I think the answer is probably yes. Do you want more traffic? The answer is probably no. And when I spoke with staff and asked them for their wholehearted evaluation, it was, well, going from 89 to 148 versus 89 to 178. The impact in traffic is not going to be felt that much more at 148 from 89. Yeah, the traffic would be a lot more going to 178. And then I hear that everything that was proposed at 178 to be done, for that to be approved, was done. But then now we're back down to 148. So we're getting a lot more quality coming to the area, a lot more amenities, a better price point. Sometimes we hear surrounding neighbors and areas come by and saying that, look at that price point, it's going to attract a bad element to the area. But now looking at this price point, you can't really make that argument. And I didn't hear that argument for this development, but we've had situations where people in surrounding areas come in and say, you know, this price point is below what's already in the area. This price point here is way above kind of what's in the area. I would love this development to be in my district. I wish we had the land, I wish we had the plan, and we would welcome it to my district. And you know, we talk about, when I first got on council, we talked about how much it costs in county services for a house price point to pay for those services. And I think we were somewhere around $150,000, $160,000 back in 2011. This price point, after speaking with those who are looking to develop it, is somewhere around $600,000, upwards of upper 500, maybe lower 600,000. So all the boxes have kind of been checked for me to feel comfortable. And I know we've had the discussion on supporting each council member in their district, but I think when we put a lot of time and effort into the comp plan, staff's put a lot of time in it, even though the planning commission said no, our staff said yes. And this makes it a really tough decision for the 7 of us up here, whether we're going for the plan or against the plan. And to me, I think it's a solid plan. Like I say, I wish I had the land in my district, and I wish those that were doing it was looking to come to District 4. So I think, you know, if we say no to this one, I don't know when we'll ever say yes to another plan, because we're always going to get the question of traffic. And I think this is the one big stickler with this development and any other development that we've had come before us, whether it's Fort Mill or anywhere else, is traffic. And if we're going to fail, if we're going to turn down any developments based off traffic, we can just put the brakes on every development in York County, because traffic is an issue across the board.
Dr. Blackwell.
You know, certainly in Lake Wiley, this is an emotional topic. I mean, earlier when a person spoke against it on the 2-minute thing, they said, we want businesses. And then later, when we're looking at another rezoning in Lake Wiley, on 49, the major highway in Lake Wiley by a lake, they want to put a business, a tackle shop, and it's like, oh, we don't want that. So, I mean, that's kind of what we have to deal with all the time, sitting up here. But when I thought about it and looked at the fact that they're going to do over $1 million in improvement in the water sewer system, there are going to be homes in the $600,000 to $700,000 range. The Clover School District said they had no objection to it. The green space, the buffer space will be better with the way they've designed it. This will allow as far as cost-benefit ratio, they don't have to do septic tanks now, which would be a lot better for the quality of Lake Wiley and the area. The TIA requirements per staff are met with the pennies for progress road work being done there and what the developer's going to do on the road infrastructure per Bumps Point. It's part of the comprehensive land use plan. And as a conservative, I wasn't happy about a developer meeting with Ms. Love and staff and saying, well, hey, if you do this, you know, we will kind of look at it in a positive way per Perry's way of doing it. Nope, not going to support it, and they don't spend a penny unless they realize the chances they're taking. So as a conservative, I can't handle any citizen being treated unfairly. That's what got me into politics, and it includes businesses too. So I want to see everybody treated fairly. So I had a little bit of indigestion with them spending over $100,000 to do the things that they were told they needed to do, and then we pull it out from them.
I'd like to speak next. I'm going to go now. Because I want to correct some things that, before anybody forgets. First thing that I would like to correct is that Highway 49 business, you're right, on the Highway 49 that you're thinking of. But this is not Highway 49 for the business. This is not Highway 49 from the Buster Boyd Bridge to the intersection. The Highway 49 that this group was talking about is the Highway 49 from 5 Points to York, and it is all residential. So I'd like to clarify that, number one. The second thing that I'd like to clarify is when we had the public hearing and Stephen McCray got up and he said that I had given them input. I want everybody in this room to know I have not supported this from day one. I was conned into a meeting, into calling. I'm just going to be very blunt tonight, and I'm going to say some things that I had not planned to say. But I was called by the developer, and I was asked if I would call a meeting with York County because they wanted to present us with a development plan. And I go, sure, I'd be happy to do that. I was a month in to my being on council. That was February 2017. So I called the meeting with David Harmon, Audra Miller, and I go. And I realize about halfway through this meeting that the two developers are not even looking at them or talking to them. They're only presenting to me. So I said, what's going on? And the county had already heard the plan. So why did the county just not call me and say, hey, we got this plan, let's look at it? Not for me to set up a meeting and go into that meeting feeling like they were sharing it with me right off the bat. That was not the case. The county was already more than likely in favor of the plan. So the other thing that happened at the public hearing is that Mr. McCray, their attorney, stood up and he showed us this. This is your copy, by the way. You forgot it that night. I'm going to give it back to you. So what he said was that, and I'm going to skip around a little bit because I've got a lot, 18 months worth of dealing with these folks right here. So I want to make it really clear, number one, I'd never supported this from the beginning, nor did 35 people who they say showed up at a community meeting. On this list, there are 14 people who have signed it, and I'm going to pass this around to you, my fellow council members, so that you can see who all has signed it. And I've made some notes on it for you. There was one adjacent neighbor from Harper Davis Road that attended the meeting. The real estate agent himself, Mr. Myers, signed the form. There was a Fort Mill resident, a resident from Curitan Drive, who that is not in Lake Wiley. There was a Rock Hill resident, a Charlotte resident, and a realtor. There were 14 people who signed in, not 35. The second part of this was they had them fill out a form when they got there. There are 14 forms. So I don't believe there were ever 35 people at the meeting. So the 14 forms there are 18 forms. Of the 18 forms, there are 4 that are blank. There are 4 with comments and no name. There are 2 that have a name only. There are 2 that have the same name. And there are 2 with names and no other information. And there are 4 that have been totally completed. So that was some heck of a community meeting. Second part of this is, I met with the developers multiple times. I've had 8 meetings. I met with the landowner, I met with the property owner, I met with their attorney, I met with the developers with Councilwoman Cox, I met with the attorney with Chairman Johnson, and I held a community meeting that was very well attended. County staff attended that, Steve Allen attended that meeting. And it was a full fire department full of people. After the meeting with Ms. Cox, I actually held a separate not private, but another community meeting. And then we had a meeting with Ms. Cox where they came in with a great fancy little notebook and threatened us with mobile homes if we didn't do the rezoning. She let them know how she felt about that, so that went away because they knew we weren't going to accept that or the threat of that. So at that point, they said, we've done everything we can do. We will not make any more adjustments. And they asked me to hold another community meeting. And I said no. And the reason I said no was because, and you remember me saying this to you, I said no because if there's nothing more that you're willing to do, there's no reason for the people to meet with you again. Those were my exact words in Ms. Cox's office. The number one complaint in Lake Wylie from 4,000 people that have Carolina Water, which is now Blue Granite, is the cost of their water. So I promise you the people moving into this development would rather have septic tanks like the rest of us along the shores of Lake Wylie that have never been a problem than Blue Granite water and what they're going to have to pay for Blue Granite water. So we are creating 149 more complaints if we rezone this, and that is a big factor. So telling us if we're from Lake Wylie and we're not disconnected from Lake Wylie and what it's like there to sit in traffic for hours every day, for you to say that the water quality will be better for the lake is a joke. I'm sorry, it's a joke. It's a stretch is what it is. Second part of this, Clover School District is meeting tonight. They may be out by now, I don't know. But they had a meeting tonight to talk about what they're going to do because they've had a study done, and that study shows that the middle school and the elementary school that the kids from this neighborhood will attend, Oak Ridge Elementary has 128 available. That's their capacity that's available. Oak Ridge Middle has 191. The total capacity for schools in the Clover School District, the total capacity for students today is 2,174 students. Kevin, can you hold this up for me? If you look at this map right here, I just want to show you that, you know what? Just like I said about MI Homes, it's not a bad plan, and I wish they were putting it in your district too, but they're not. It's not a bad plan. But here's the problem with it. When you go out and you buy a jigsaw puzzle and you put all those pieces together, you've got one big puzzle. So for us to look at this as individual puzzle, I can't see over that. So don't block me. So for us to look at it as individual puzzle pieces and not as the total picture is a mistake. It's a big mistake. Because here's what I want to share with you from the Clover School District. And the reason I'm sitting here tonight is because of two of these developments. Cypress Point, 358 homes, remaining units, 358. It's not done yet. It's not built yet, okay? Lake Crest, which is the Mattamy development that y'all heard me beg and beg and beg for you to help me with, 123 homes remaining to be built. There are already 175. There are 175. There are 123 remaining. The lodges at Lake Wylie, that's phase 2 of an apartment complex. They will be adding 114 apartments. Mary Way is the hugest, biggest mess. This is the one that has come back multiple times to have their permit renewed, but they haven't done anything yet. They are on the shores of Lake Wylie, on Crowder's Creek. 449 homes. Westport, which is down on the Daimler property, those properties, that PD, requires 3,700 homes. So when you take these puzzle pieces, 358, 123, 334, 114, 449, 40, because Summer House at Paddler's Cove is still being built, and 769, you have 2,187 homes that have not been built yet, but they've been permitted. That is the equivalent, based on the formula that that York County uses for how many kids. That's 874 kids. We've only got room for 2,000. Total, that's the high school and everything. So just the one development at 149 homes takes up half of the rest of what's left, the 128 and the 108 and the 191 at Oak Ridge Elementary and Oak Ridge Middle School. And let's talk about what the Clover School District had to say about this, because you're in error on that also. I'm going to read something to you. This is the letter that the Clover School District received from staff, and it's dated March 28, 2019. Attached is a York County rezoning request located within your school district. This item was up for rezoning in 2017, and the application was put on hold by the property owners. At the time, you, or Mark Sosney, provided comments that the school district in general had no objection to the request, and it was pointed out that the school district needs balanced growth. I'm unable to find the actual letter that was provided by the school district in 2017. I am reaching out to you today to see if the school district has the same opinion as before. Pay attention to this next sentence. I do need to mention that the request in 2017 would have yielded 178 home sites. The applicant has reduced that number to 149. I look forward to receiving your response. Please let me know if you have any questions. And they chose the lower density. Here's a statement from the superintendent. We responded to only one notification that there would be a reduction from 178 to 149. We were never asked to respond to a proposal for 89. If we were given that opportunity, we would have supported that. The letter we sent back to the person above stated we support a reduction. We just did not have the lower number, and that's Sheila Quinn, who is the school superintendent. So they do support the lower density, the same lower density that I'm asking you to approve tonight, 89 homes. Doesn't even need to be approved. So I've got copies of that letter for you. I've got copies of a map that I want you to be able to refer to in just a minute, same as the big poster out here. I want to quote Chairman Blackwell. Back in December, he was our chairman.
I was going to say, I'm not chairman now.
But you were then, and your quote in the Fort Mill Times is, "I don't see how a builder could have done any more to be accommodating." This was about MI Homes.
Right.
Second part, and I agree with him 100%. Second sentence is, "There's just no room for growth right now in that area." Nothing has changed since 2018.
And that was for the same development?
This is for the
That
one
was
we
for-
denied in December.
The one we denied back in November, December.
Okay.
But, so nothing has changed with the exception of a couple more developments being added to the mix. And I want to tell you what those are. And if you can see that poster right there, you'll see that I've put a little green sticker on the Vista. That's the one we're talking about tonight. The little pink sticker, I know, I'm sorry, it's hard to see. I had it blown up as big as I could get it done. The little pink one, that's Merriway. That's 449 homes. At the top is a little purple sticker. That's McLean. That's a cross in North Carolina. It's exactly 3 miles from the Vista. That's 800 homes, and adjacent to that is Worrells River. That's 209. So to the north of this development, exactly 3 miles is McLean with over 1,100 homes. Okay? To the south of this development is Merriway with 449 homes. The traffic study that was done for this development takes neither one of those into account. Neither one. So that is over 1,500 homes that are not accounted for in the traffic study. And you think maybe North Carolina, maybe they're headed north, they don't come south? Well, let me tell you something. They come south down Pole Branch Road for their gas and their groceries. And they add. How can you have a legitimate traffic study and not include over 1,500 homes? So again, you look at the little puzzle pieces, 1,500, they're all split up into different little puzzle pieces, but the total impact of what's happening in this district, and specifically in Lake Wiley, is detrimental to the quality of life from the people who live there. And if you don't believe it, I got something else to show you. Dear York County Council members, please help us slow the growth in Lake Wiley. We would like for you to not approve rezonings for higher density. That should be the policy for Lake Wiley. There is a development proposed adjacent to Mill Creek, and it is currently zoned for 89 homes. The developer is proposing 149 homes, as that is the highest number of homes they can build and only have one entrance. We, as a community, are opposed to the added density on Pole Branch Road and Highway 274, where we have a 3-year Pennies project underway. Mill Creek has experienced past construction runoff and once again is being affected by major road construction. The cove is already inaccessible by boat, and the added damage by developer clear-cutting trees and grading will be a further detriment to the area. We love our area. We would like to maintain the integrity of what is left in the way of green space and natural areas. Please help us by not allowing parcels of land to be rezoned for more homes on top of homes that are impacting our schools, roads, fire and medic service, and quality of life in general. We appreciate your commitment to York County and count on your decisions to be those that are best for all citizens. This petition is being sent to our representative, Allison Love, so that she may share our signatures with you at the appropriate time. And I feel that this is the appropriate time for me to share with you 3,749 signatures from the people who live in Lake Wiley. And I can make a copy for everybody, but you're going to have to pay me back for my copy paper. It's 55 pages of names who are opposed to this. If we do not deny this tonight, second reading will be a public hearing. And I promise you, it will be the longest public hearing you have ever sat through. And if we don't approve it at the second reading, there will be a third public hearing. And that will be the second longest public hearing you've ever sat through. What I need from you, my fellow council members tonight, is for you to realize that maybe you don't understand Lake Wiley. Maybe it is very different from your areas. We've got a Pennies project. We've got Pole Branch Road coming in, and guess what? It's still only going to be 2 lanes. There's not that many places to turn off of Pole Branch, but there's a turning lane down the middle. So we still have 2 lanes of traffic going back and forth, not 4 or 5. It's not going to look like 274. We have a developer who is proposing this, who has said a lot of things that are not true. That concerns me more than anything else tonight, because I don't know if they've misspoken. I don't know if they have intentionally misled people, but I will tell you that I have not, from day one, supported this development. I'm sitting here tonight because I do not support high density in Lake Wiley, period. And every development that comes before me, and they all do, everyone that comes before me and wants to show me their plan, I tell them the same thing. I'm not going to support a rezoning for higher density.
Mr. McCray, you are out of, Mr. McCray, you are out of order. Mr. McCray, you are out of order. Mr. Hamilton.
You know,
I'm good.
as I began to hear about this development, I, kind of shared a lot of Councilman Roddy's thoughts. Like, man, I would love if someone built this next to me. High price points, fits with the comp plan. I'm really not sure what else you could want. I mean, the developer said, they're going to put money into the water treatment. They're going to put money into improving Harper Davis Road. And, I had a hard time wrapping my brain around why anyone would object to this. However, I believe Councilwoman Love may have missed her calling in becoming an attorney, because I think she makes a good case. And based on her objections and the large and very public outcry against this development, it'd be very difficult to shove this down anyone's throat. So For those reasons, I'm going to defer to the judgment of the councilwoman's district and not support it.
Thank you.
Mr. Winkler.
I'll just say, I don't believe I've ever supported killing anything on a first reading. And I don't plan on supporting that tonight. Councilmember Love has raised a lot of good concerns, a lot of good issues and questions. I do believe this is a very nice development. Yeah, I'd love to have it in my area, and I've got plenty of land for it. The problem is I don't have the water and sewer infrastructure at all to be able to do it in my area. But I just have a real, and I did not support the last one in December that we killed on the first reading. I just have a real issue with killing something on the first reading and not giving time to, look at all the options and work through it some. So I still will support this passing on first reading.
Ms. Cox.
I got on council because a property owner went and did all his homework, spoke to all the council members, went to define what their project was in a way that basically their project was going to be approved shoe-in. As a lawyer, I was able to go in and identify the fact that what they were proposing was not even what they were asking for, and it was prohibited by law. That's what got me sitting here. I don't consider myself to be your normal politician. That is the kind of thing that drives me. If I did not have, the only person that listened to me was my council member, Kerwood Chapel. If I did not have 3 readings, at least 2, I would have never been able to show the council why they were about to make a mistake. Process is really important to me. That is what is driving my decision tonight. If any of you sitting in the audience were to come to council, I think I have learned after serving for 4.5 years that you've spent a lot of money and you've done a lot of things to get to that point. I would give you the respect of a second reading, to have an opportunity to be heard. That is why I got on this council, and so I want folks to understand why I'm allowing second reading. The only reason that I am allowing second reading, because I don't think there is any way to fix the problems with what I see or with this development. But the only reason I'm allowing it is because I was contacted by the applicant who asked to be allowed to have the process and who said that they are going to make substantial concessions that they want this council to hear. If that doesn't materialize and there are not substantial concessions, I will not vote for this. I would not vote for this under the current circumstances. I do not think that it is appropriate in accordance with our comp plan. I'll tell you the things that I was concerned about, and I appreciate Ms. Love's comments. I know that she is passionate about what she does and that this has been going on for 18 months. I think, Mr. Davis, you said be done already, and I understand that point, but I do think that it's important for us to at least see if that happens. And if it doesn't, you don't need to come back because I'm not voting for it, at least on my part. You don't have to come to listen to me. The concerns that I have were, and I don't know, I would like to get the school's response because I don't have that.
I've got it in writing from her.
I would like to
just
see
sent it.
that.
I just sent it to you.
I have the request, I didn't see
I'll forward you her
the
text.
response.
Forward
Yeah, I
you
would
her
like to
text.
see that because according to the information that we've been provided today, the school did not have an issue with this.
So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make up something.
No, I'm not suggesting you are. I said I think that that's important for us to make sure that we identify and that we.
I've identified that for you tonight. And let me ask this, just because you're on a kind of a different wavelength.
Excuse me, Ms. Love, Ms. Cox has the floor.
I would like to know, county staff approved this and they recommended approval of this. I would like to know why. I have concerns about water quality that I think at least need to be vetted out. So, I mean, I would at least like to hear from our county management who recommended, and our county staff who recommended approval of this and the basis for that.
David?
You want that now?
Well, give them time to.
Okay, I didn't realize she was asking for that right now. I'm sorry.
Let's hear it.
You may have to rephrase, he didn't,
As I understand it, and I think what's put in here is that they've recommended approval of this.
That's correct.
She wants, I guess the basis of why staff approved it, right?
Right.
Okay.
what's the basis,
It's-
Mr. Hudspeth?
It is consistent with our comprehensive plan. And it's more consistent with our comprehensive plan than the 89 lots. The comprehensive plan suggests a higher density for the property than what has been proposed. There's other factors that come into play as far as the concessions or the development presented by the developers. The development agreement includes additional concessions, and we, as staff, felt like the additional amenities that were offered just made for a better plan than the 89 lot subdivision. And the consistency with the comprehensive plan is really what was driving our recommendation.
I think clearly the comp plan is wrong. But I'm not backing off on this. I believe in a process. I think we need to follow the process. If any of you would come before us, I would give you the same respect.
Dr. Blackwell?
Here again, I understand how emotional this is, and Allison, boy, she's a fireball when she speaks. But I'm still at the same point. Staff said it met comprehensive land use plan. They spent 2 years, committees going over that. The developer really can't do any more than what he's done in terms of what I see. And I would like clarification, maybe from an expert, about the protection of, common sense tells me that's a lot safer than septic tanks right up against the shore. So I would like, not now, just clarification later. And hey, if Ms. Love wants to propose an overlay district over Lake Wiley that says no homes, no more new homes, no more businesses, I'll support it. But if we're gonna go by these rules, I have to be fair. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Mr. Roddy?
I just have one question. Can staff get back with us? Oh, turn my mic on. Can staff let us know how many homes does the comp plan support in this area? Because what we've heard is that this is below what the comp plan would support. I think that'll be a helpful number.
It's over
If-
350 for that one parcel.
Okay. So 350 is the number. Is that correct? Are you, for me?
What's recommended in our comp plan is from 2 to 5 units per acre.
Which will give us,
79 acres.
because what I'm trying to, I guess, establish is the comp plan says it'll support X number. Here's what the developer is proposing. And that number is?
Well, it's 2 to 5 units per acre times 178 acres, if I'm remembering the number right.
Oh, that's well over 300. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Aye.
The current zoning
Go ahead.
is for, the current zoning is for the 89 homes. And have we adopted the 2035 plan as a council? Because the current zoning, the reason they're having to ask for a rezoning is because the current zoning calls for the 89 homes that they've been approved for.
The land use plan calls for higher density. The current zoning calls for 89
Right.
units per acre.
Everyone, you can tell this stuff's not easy. I really liked the plan that this council killed back in November, December. I thought that was one of the best, to be honest, I thought it was one of the best neighborhoods I've seen, period, anywhere. Fort Mill, TK, Lake Wiley, anywhere. Yet this council chose to do it. I was leaning to allowing first reading to go through right up until the Clover School District didn't support it. And the message from the superintendent. That we don't regulate schools, we don't control schools, but what we do impacts schools. And if you don't believe that, you can come to the Fort Mill School District and you can see that firsthand, how we've impacted their schools and how we've impacted taxes in that area, which are now outrageous. I will stand with Ms. Love on this and not support it on those grounds purely. So I'm going to delay to allow y'all to look
Can
at
I
that.
clarify one point?
Yes, sir.
I might have not heard completely, but having been on the school board for 8 years and the State Board of Education for 4 years, I think I heard that they said, well, hey, we'd much rather have the 89, but I didn't hear them say they opposed the other, which they had approved earlier.
They were never asked about the 89.
Can staff reach out to the school district to get an official letter from them, one way or another, what they support? Can planning take care of that for us, or can Bill, can the county manager or someone get us an official statement from the school district?
Got it. She sent this to me as her statement. There it is. There's her message right there. And I printed that out. I had Karen print it out so that I could read it to you. That's
Is that
from
is
the
that a
school
text to
superintendent.
you, or is that an official letterhead response?
There's the letter. She didn't have a copy of the letter. She did. Ken Smith had a copy of the letter, but the letter they responded to was asking them 178 versus 149. They were not given the option of the 89.
Well, of course, if I'm a superintendent, I'd say, oh, I'd much prefer the 89.
I guess.
But the
Well, that's what
question,
she's based on,
the question
they're in a
was
meeting
for them.
tonight discussing impact fees. This is the first this is the first development they've actually weighed in on.
I guess my question is, looks like we're going on to second reading. Can we get an official letter from the school district stating their position addressed to the county? And I think staff says they can secure that.
Yeah, and she needs to,
Address the county.
she needs to,
Hang
I
on,
mean, I had to do a lot of hearings on the state board, so she better be clear.
we're going to recognize Ms. Cox.
I would ask that we go into executive session to ask a legal question about what's been proposed here tonight.
There is a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. Everyone would please take a seat. Motion. Council has been in executive session. We have come out of executive session. Anyone else have any matter?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to amend the current motion to defer first reading so as to allow council to obtain clarification from the school district on this issue.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion to amend. Is there any discussion regarding the motion to amend? Technically, Ms. Cox gets first chance at it. Ms. Cox?
I think it's critically important that, to make sure that the information that we've been provided is consistent with what the packet says. And I think this is a big enough issue that we can postpone that and get clarification from the school.
Mr. Winkler?
I'm not going to support the motion to defer just for the same reason. There are 3 readings for a purpose. We can get, if that letter from the school district is something that most of the council needs and wants and requires, we should be able to get that before the second reading. Again, I believe in, as Councilmember Cox said, the process. And so I think the process is between now and the second reading, we should be able to get that letter if that's something that we need clarification on for this. So I still support the first reading this evening.
Ms. Block?
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think we need to take a position, and, I mean, this deferral stuff gets a little on steroids with us a little bit. But per Mr. Winkler's comment, it still allows for the clarification that we should have easily before the second reading. So I think the process should be allowed to play out, and we make our decision when we get the official word from the school district.
Mr. Roddy?
I just want to make a point of clarification. The reason why I made the suggestion that we get an official letter from the school district and the superintendent or whoever we're speaking of, it makes it official. Something that's addressed to the county versus something that's addressed to an individual council member. I think that will suffice anybody's concern on council who may or may not base their decision on what the school district says. And I think having it in an official letter really firms up whether someone is going to put a lot of stock in what the school district wants to see happen, or if they're not going to use that to weigh in. So I just think it makes it official and in the best interest of the process. That's why we do have 3 readings, because if something's not clear in the first reading, we have 2 weeks and we'll get the second reading. So if this letter, I'm sure we'll have this letter probably about 12 noon tomorrow after all this debate. Someone's going to get a call tonight. But I'm sure that letter will be in hand, and we can keep the process moving. And I think if we're going to have second reading at the next hearing, I'm pretty sure everyone will be well aware of what that letter says, whether it's still going to be an emotional issue one way or another. But we often get criticized on how long things takes, and I think this just pushes it back even further. We can keep the process going and get the letter, and we can, stay on some kind of timely track. So I'm looking forward to getting that letter and getting on the second reading. So.
Anyone else?
Yep. So, you'll have the letter, and I think that this will be the first time that we've actually looked at a letter from the school on anything like this. And I don't understand why y'all keep saying this is an emotional issue. There's not anybody here crying or mad or upset. It is not emotional. There's some passion, but there's not any emotion. And for you to not accept a 3,700 name, you realize that's a large part of Lake Wiley. For you to not accept a 3,700 list of names of people who don't want this, and to listen to the person who is elected by everybody in that district and who won by a large margin. So it's not like it wasn't like a 51%, let me remind you. It was a 3-1. I was elected to represent those people, and I do represent those people. And for you to not pay any attention to that or to not put any value in that is very disappointing. So here's the difference in deferring this tonight. Deferring first reading means that this comes back in 2 weeks and we can be done with this once you've got your information. Not deferring this to first reading and allowing this to go to second reading means that I've got to pack this room with people in order to convince you of the right thing to do for those people. And so it's going to be a very long public hearing, and I would love to avoid that. This has been going on for 18 months. They've told us there's nothing more they could do. For us to give them the opportunity now to do something significant, I don't even know where that thought process is coming from, because they haven't done it in 18 months. What makes you think they're going to do it in the next 2 weeks? I'm not going to accept 120 homes. I'm not going to accept anything except the 89, nor are the people that I represent. So we're just delaying the process further. And, I love seeing my people. So if they all want to come here and stand up and speak, and you'll get to know more of them too, that's great. But I think, if nothing else, the better decision tonight is to defer this first reading so that you don't have to endure that.
Dr. Blackman.
Let me point out one thing, and this is not why I made the decision, but you've said this several times, and I can't bite my tongue any longer. You're being a little hypocritical when you say, well, I'm upset because you wouldn't respect that councilman's district, when not only recently, I said at the time, I said, okay, these are the new rules we play by, I accept them, but we got to be consistent. When I had a situation in my district, which staff recommended because of the unfairness to that area, and you not only, when I went ahead and gave in and still came up with options to make it work, you still opposed everything. I think it's disingenuous to sit there and talk about you're bothered by the fact that we won't go along with you on this. But I want to stress, this is not why I've taken my position. I'm taking my position because I think it's the right thing to do. But if you want to come up with a overlay where Lake Wiley gets no more businesses, no more homes, I'm with you 100%. But if we're going to go by the rules that we have right now, I still have to be fair.
All those in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
Which motion are we voting on?
The motion is
is
To defer.
It's to amend the motion
Oh.
so we can defer. All those in favor of the amended motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The motion to amend passes. We are now voting on the main motion. The motion is now a motion to defer. All those in favor of the motion to defer say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
This matter has been deferred until the next meeting. Council to consider first reading of an ordinance to establish operating and capital budgets for the operation of the county government of York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2019, to provide for the levy of taxes for York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2019, to provide for the expenditure of tax revenues and other county funds, and provide for other fiscal matters relating to county government.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I do want to point out, this is just procedural for the first reading.
Yeah, it's first
This
reading,
is
so
purely
based on what we
procedural
said.
vote.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion passes. There was a move, we moved consent agenda item 13 to new business 5. County management has requested that we go into executive session to hear regarding this contractual matter. Is there a motion for us to go into an executive
So
session?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are back in executive session. Council has come out of executive session. We will now address new business number 5. Council to approve award regarding bid number 2606 for the purchase of a 1.5 million gallon elevated water storage tank for installation at Fort Mills US Highway 21 North location to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, CB&I LLC of Alpharetta, Georgia, for a total cost of $3,831,300, which includes a 10% contingency.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, motion passes. Committee and other reports. Economic Development Committee, Chairman Robert Winkler.
Thank you. Committee and Economic Development Committee was to have met on April 30th at 11 a.m. The only members present were myself, so we had no meeting.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I tried.
That's the worst committee.
Sorry, Robert.
Public Works, were there more than one at Public Works? Bob?
Turn your mic on.
Flag on the play. We met at 5 p.m. today, and we had all 3 committee members were there, along with Public Works and Animal Control. We were updated on several key issues and initiatives. One thing that stood out to me in the meeting, obviously, was we are well suited for long-range planning for our landfill C&D. We look to be secured for the next whopping 86 years, so we're doing well there. We talked about I can't read my own notes. I need my glasses. The recovery facility, doing well. We're making a real concerted effort to make sure we keep as much out of our landfills and make sure we're recycling. I think we're one of only 2 out of the state that meets the state's goals when it comes to those activities. Landfill diversion is a very key effort over at the Public Works. We have the capacity now with the new facility to accept debris from municipalities as well as private industry. So we have that capacity, and without having to add employees. So that's a good thing. And switch over to animal control. Animal control is doing really well. We're looking at doing They asked for a resolution to have basically a test pilot program of trap, neuter, and return. I was shocked to hear that it cost us, on average, between $80 and $100 per cat per week to house cats. That cost gets up pretty high, but the initiative that they're looking to put in place can reduce that down to as low as $10 per cat. So we're really excited about that opportunity, and we're looking at a few ordinance changes coming forward, but I think it's going to be an evolving process to where this pilot program is going to really tell us which way we need to go. So that's basically about it. So kind of full council kind of be prepared to hear some animal control talks going forward. But I think Bobby has a pretty good plan going forward, really proactive plan. In the past, we've kind of held steady with euthanizing cats and that kind of thing, but her plan is going to really tip the scale to decrease those euthanized cats and what we're facing. So really excited.
Thank you. Council member new non-agenda comments. Anyone? Ms. Cox?
We passed today the ordinance for 150 on the road frontage, but as part of that, I think the development community came out and actually suggested this, and I would ask that we, the 75-foot setback, that's something that, from what I understand, we are way behind the times, and that's necessary. It allows for us to put a mid-level road in if necessary, and so I would ask that it seems like a very innocuous, easy thing to do. I would ask that we start moving forward with that.
Don't disagree. Anyone else? Tonight, we passed a resolution regarding Economic Development Week. We did that in consent agenda. I have been asked during this time to read this out loud, so you all will hang on. We will get through this. A resolution to recognize National Economic Development Week in York County, South Carolina on May 6th through May 11th, 2019. Whereas the International Economic Development Council is the largest professional economic development organization dedicated to serving economic developers. And whereas the International Economic Development Council provides leadership and excellence in economic development for communities, members, and partners through conferences, training courses, advisory services, and research, in-depth publications, public policy advocacy, and initiatives such as the Accredited Economic Development Organization Program and the Certified Economic Developer designation. And whereas economic developers promote economic well-being and quality of life for their communities by creating, retaining, and expanding jobs that facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas economic developers stimulate and incubate entrepreneurism in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of the American economy. And whereas economic developers are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including rural and urban, local, state, provincial, and federal governments, public-private partnerships, chambers of commerce, universities, and a variety of other institutions. And whereas economic developers attract and retain high-quality jobs, develop vibrant communities, and improve the quality of life in their regions. And whereas economic developers work in the county of York within the state of South Carolina. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the York County Council does hereby recognize May 6th through 11th, 2019 as National Economic Development Week in York County and reminds individuals of the importance of this community celebration, which supports the expansion of career opportunities and improving quality of life. Adopted this 6th day of May 2019. That they probably won't want on the video. So, last but not least, I say this to remind all council members of this. We are not to use this podium to attack one another, and we are not to go after members of the public. I am not going to allow members of the public to come after you, and I can promise you that, but we need to be very careful singling out people. And I understand reasonings, but I do want the same courtesy that I'm going to stop someone from coming after one of any of us is the same courtesy we have to give back to the public at large. Other than that, do we have a motion to go once again into executive session?
Yes, sir. Move we go into executive session for personnel matter, county manager's evaluation process, and receipt of legal advice on Blue Granite rate case and intervention status.
Any discussion?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. Council has come out of executive session. During executive session, we had a discussion regarding the process to review the county manager. The council has decided to move forward and will begin to interview and try to find someone to assist council with developing a evaluation and an appraisal document and going through that process to determine what it will take. And council hopes to hire someone to begin that process within the next 2 to 4 weeks. Are there any other motions coming out of executive session?
Yes, sir. Make a motion to authorize intervention in the Blue Granite rate case.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.